Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for logging on and attending today's virtual program. My name is Matt Schumann. I am on the programming team here at Cary Library. Before we begin, please let me know if there are any technical issues I can try to resolve. You can message me in the chat. Questions can also be asked through the chat throughout the program, or if you want to unmute yourself at the end. This program is also made possible by the generous donors to the Cary Library Foundation. With us today is Chef John Scott Smith. A lot of us have experienced some shortage of flour or yeast while staying at home, but today Chef John is going to show us how to make a floating island, or what is sometimes called snow pudding, using some things you might have lying around in your pantry. He was a professional baker before this and taught himself a lot of recipes from cookbooks. John is now conducting community education classes and moderating a baking Facebook group. So now, please welcome Chef John Scott Smith.
Hello, thank you very much. When Mina first approached me about doing this, I was trying to come up with a recipe that everyone would have the ingredients in their house for and that would not be particularly difficult. And so I put together this one. Floating island is a classic French dessert. In just about any French cookbook you're going to find this, but interestingly you don't find the recipe in, or not the recipe, you don't find the offering at any restaurants. I haven't seen this in as many years as I've been going to restaurants. I've not seen it out. And so I want to be able to prepare that for you and show you how to do it, as well as whenever I teach a recipe, I try and point out the pitfalls that you'll want to avoid. And it is easy to make this one in too high of heat. So think gentle when you're cooking it. You're trying to coax the eggs into producing a beautiful custard instead of scrambling and producing just a very sweet scrambled egg. And so I'm going to start, and I'm trying to do this all via Zoom, so I'm moving things around. The recipes that I have for this were all measured in grams, and so I've done my best to convert everything with my scale. So first we start off with 2 cups of milk, highest fat that you have available. So if you have whole milk, that's great. If you've only got 1%, that'll work as well, but it's not going to be as rich of a sauce. Into a pot with a little bit of vanilla extract, say 2 teaspoons. And so what we're trying to do right now is get the vanilla and the milk starting to warm. And again, you're going to go with a gentle heat. In experiments in the past, I have gone too high and bad things happen. We want to avoid that today. The rest of the things that you're going to have is going to be a pot of gently simmering water and a bowl to put inside of that. You don't want the bowl to touch the water inside. The way to test that is put the water in first, put it down, and then touch. Make sure at the bottom of the bowl is still going to be dry. And I'm going to start that going. And now we're going to separate 6 eggs. The easiest way that I found to do that is directly into a bowl and then lift the yolks out. Yes, is this visible?
Yep, that's perfect. I was just going to, there were 2 comments, and one was that your sous chef is awesome filming, and 2, someone said that they think that they had it at the Westover Inn in St. Mary's, Ontario.
Very. And if you are nervous because you are being filmed and you accidentally get some shell in your eggs, the easiest way to fish it out is with another piece of eggshell. I don't know why that works so well, but it's something I've learned. 5, and 6. Now for our recipe, we want the yolks only in one bowl and the whites in another. So I fish out my yolks. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excuse me, I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. And I'm going to give this a quick rinse. When you have your sauce completed, you're going to want a spout, a bowl or a cup with a spout on it for serving later. And so I use the same thing that I measured out the milk in. So after you're done cooking your sauce, you pour it in here, refrigerate it with saran wrap on, actually touching the surface so it doesn't form a skin. It'll be good to go. So what we've got right now are 6 egg yolks.
Someone had a question what size eggs you were using.
Large eggs are the ones that I'm using. I don't think that, like, if you've got only medium or extra large on hand, I don't think that's going to adversely affect this.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to add 1/2 a cup of sugar. And as soon as you add the sugar, you're going to want to start whisking. If you wait, the sugar will draw out the moisture from the egg yolks and you'll wind up with hard bits that are unpleasant to eat. Nothing wrong with them, but it's not going to be very nice. So I add the sugar immediately, start whisking. So we've got the sugar and the yolks mixed, and you want to keep going with that until you get to what's called the ribbon phase. I'll demonstrate that when we get there. But you're whipping until it gets to be a very pale yellow, and it will thicken. And I found that a bigger balloon-shaped whisk is better than a more narrow one for doing this. I'm checking my milk, which is still warming up gently. I'll go a little bit higher heat on that. And as the whisk is incorporating air, you can already see it getting lighter in colors and thicker. It's not yet at the ribbon phase, which is where it will stack up on top of itself.
You have a compliment also that the bowls are great. They like the characters on them.
My wife brought this into the marriage, and if you've ever taken any of my baking classes, you've seen these because I've commandeered them for almost every cupcake class and baking class that I've taught. Thank you. Now the milk is starting to get little wisps of steam over the top, so that it's getting to the right temperature. I'll drop the temp on that a little bit. The yolks are almost done. And now if you look, you can see how the yolk starts stacking on itself. When you drop it into the bowl, it doesn't fall immediately into the liquid. That's when you know you're ready. So the milk, again, warm, but not boiling. And this one we're going to do something called tempering, where you add some of the hot milk to the yolks to bring up the temperature gently, and then add all of that into the milk. If you just pour the yolk mixture into the milk, it'll curdle right away and you'll have sweet scrambled eggs. So a little bit of the milk, whisk, a little bit more. Nice big heavy bowl is helpful for this so it doesn't move around. There. Well, a little bit more. I want to do about half of the milk by the time you're done and done. All right. Now all that goes into the milk.
Yeah.
We're going to shift from a whisk to a heat-proof spatula.
I think I might find a way to incorporate every single word.
Now this is where it gets incredibly boring to watch me because I'm just going to stir for about 5 minutes. And this is one of the things that's difficult to capture with the camera. It's got a thin foam on the top. Let's see. Oh, how do we get that? There we go. Okay. That foam is going to dissipate when it's just about ready, and I'll be able to show you that as well as how thick it gets. So on TV, this is the part where they tell you interesting stories, right? And so I will say, I used to be a believer in working only with real vanilla extract. And when I got the job at the bakery, I told my boss that I was looking for the perfect vanilla cake. And she said, what you're looking for is one that calls for artificial vanilla. To which I was shocked. I was scandalized, you might say. Why would you use artificial vanilla? And she said, vanilla beans are wonderful and subtle and fragrant and largely lost on something like a cake or most recipes that you want to use them in. And she said, what people are looking for is that punch of flavor that you get from artificial vanilla. Well, this was later confirmed on an episode that I saw of America's Test Kitchen, where they did a blind taste test with their foodie chefs and determined that everyone's favorite vanilla was in fact artificial vanilla. So stuff that I use is stuff that won the America's Test Kitchen taste test, which is Baker's Imitation Vanilla, which is like 99 cents for half of a pint, versus real vanilla, which I think right now is going for about $22 for half of a pint. I just keep lifting the pot off the heat also. I want to make sure that it's gently coming to temperature. And what's happening right now is that the yolks are cooking inside of the milk, and they're going to start thickening it. This is a stirred custard, which is also a vanilla ice cream base. You could freeze this in an ice cream machine, and you would have vanilla ice cream. You could add starch, like cornstarch or flour, and you would have classic pastry cream. Or the way it is right now is called Creme Anglaise. And that it's a French sauce named after the English is fascinating to me. So I'll show you very quickly. The sauce is thickening. How do we get that? There. Sauce is thickening. It's slowing down. But that foam is still on the top, so we're not there yet. And when you're done, it should coat the bottom of the spoon. It's called nappe, where you dip a spoon, you pull it out, run your finger across the spoon, and the sauce does not fill in the gap that your finger just created. So I will get a spoon for when we get to the testing point. Also, more anecdotes. My introduction to French cooking and French baking especially was at a yard sale in Champaign, Illinois. I found Louis Diot's cookbook for 25 cents, the 1969 classic tome that weighs many pounds. And for 25 cents, I was introduced to the world of French cooking. Okay, and again, I'm going to try and bring, this doesn't represent well with a phone camera, but I don't know if you could tell, but the foam, when you pull the spatula through, is leaving streaks where you can actually see the custard, and it is clearly thicker than milk, which is what it started off as. We're not quite there, but we are very close. And again, gentle heat. When you're making something like this, it is fine to take an extra couple of minutes to make sure that you slowly get to the place you want to be. If you get there too fast, it will break, and you'll wind up with very sweet scrambled egg yolks. Okay, let's see if that's ready yet. Yes. Okay, I will show you. See if we can see the spoon. Pull the sauce out, run your finger across, and it leaves a line. That means it's done. So I'm going to kill the heat, remove it from the stovetop, and just let that cool. And then before you serve, what you'll want to do, I poured it back into a measuring cup, put saran wrap right down on the surface of it so that it doesn't form a skin, and place it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours to bring it down to a nice cool temperature for serving. I have already prepared some that I'll be able to show. I did this last night also, so we'll be able to show you one that is finished for plating, okay? Now we're going to get to making the floating island part of the dessert, and that's going to be the egg whites that I've already separated. 6 egg whites, and I would say 5 teaspoons of sugar is what we're going to be using. Now I've got gently simmering water right here. I started that when this, let's see, did that. Okay, we back? All right. So I've got our gently simmering water right here, a bowl that I'm going to be using for whipping the egg whites, and then 5 tablespoons of sugar. Let me add a little bit. That water's a little bit low. There. And now, bowl, whites, and then we start whipping. We've got the egg whites, a little bit of bubbles in them, and that's, we're going to add a little bit of cream of tartar if you've got it handy, a couple drops of lemon juice if you have that, or you could just use neither. It's perfectly fine. But the tartaric acid or the lemon juice are going to help you get stiffer peaks faster, and we're going to get more volume out of it. Okay, now that that's going, we're going to add a little bit of the sugar. The purpose of the heat is to help the eggs get to a bigger volume. And to cook them, you want to make sure they're going to be safe to eat because the poaching isn't going to quite get them to the 140 degrees that would be safe for eggs. Gradually working in my sugar. Until the last of it is done. Now you can see we've got lots of volume. And we go up to high volume, high speed now. So remove it from the heat and feel if there is no grittiness. It's fully dissolved, and now you can take it off the heat and beat at high speed until you get stiff peaks. Now, how can you tell you've got stiff peaks? This is still soft. The tips, they come off and they fold off of the mixer. Keep going. They're probably at, I'd say, soft peaks are maybe medium, and our goal is going to be stiff.
So, John, there's a question. Why did you use the whisk earlier instead of the electric mixer?
I don't know. I've actually never been shown how to make creme anglaise with an electric mixer. It's always been with a whisk. And also, when it came, I would have had to have thoroughly cleaned the mixer paddles before I did this, because if you get any fat into the egg whites, they're not going to whip up well. Plus, I get stuck my mad whisking skill. Okay, you see how when you knock the paddles, the peaks still stay? That is stiff peaks. We are about done with this. And now that same water that we use to heat, I'm going to add a little bit more, and that's what we're going to poach. I kept a kettle of hot water, which I will add. I'm going to clear up my cooking space. And when your eggs are done, you're going to move them to a cookie sheet that I've lined with a paper towel. And so now, either with a spoon or if you have a disher, grab some of that foam, and we're going to poach it for a couple of minutes on each side.
You can check.
When you're going into the bowl, if you want to make your work easier, do it clockwise. So when you flip them, you're flipping them clockwise, and that way everything is getting cooked for the same amount of time. You can do about 4 or 5 of these at a time.
he actually said like M&M. I think one time actually did say num dash a dash num.
Okay, well, these are poaching. I'm going to go ahead and transfer my creme anglaise to the measuring cup.
I didn't put anything under B yet. I was thinking of doing yeast.
And then I will show you how to cover this, and then these will continue poaching.
Please. Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone knows that.
So saran wrap is going to go right down on top of the sauce so that it won't form a skin as it cools in the refrigerator. And then after it cools a little bit more, I'll go ahead and put that in the fridge for later. Eggs have been poaching for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and we flip them. A slotted spoon works well here. Let's get him over. There we go. And they will firm up. You see how it's no longer just a foam, it's actually nice and firm when you touch it with your finger. Let those go for a couple more minutes and they'll be done. I'm going to grab a plate. We'll repeat with the rest of this. I don't need to do that for the video. You'll repeat that for the rest of this and then let those cool down as well. And I'll show you how to set the whole thing up. So excuse me one moment.
Oh no.
Okay, again, we're going to check these. These are nice and firm. Remember, they were cooked before we ever put them in here. This is to firm them up for final presentation. Pull them out with a slotted spoon. And this is going to be the floating island. And now I will do the whole thing together for a presentation. This is the same creme anglaise that I made, only this I made last night, so it's been chilling overnight. For serving, take a shallow bowl and put a layer of that nice thick sauce on the bottom.
I remember back in the beginning of the year, well, not the beginning, but before lockdown, we still had the wings. There used to be
2 or 3.
from here to here and about this thick, a red line that had the suspicious texture of a rope. On my hand, from here to here, where I grabbed
And then
this wing.
in order to get a textural difference, if you have pistachios or almonds that you want to put on top, you can also do a caramel sauce, but I think we're going to be a little bit short on time for that. Do we have time, like 5 more minutes that we can do this?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
All right. I will go ahead and throw together a caramel sauce for you then. Let's see, I need pan. Powdered sugar, and a heat-proof spatula. So you're going to take, you're going on that side of me? Oh, we are back to the tripod. Okay, small nonstick skillet over medium-high heat. This caramel sauce that we're going to make, this is actually going to be a full caramel, not just a sauce, but caramel. And it's called al sec, which means we won't be adding any sugar. It's going to be dry. So what we do is we cover the bottom of the pan with the powdered sugar. And I'll show you as we go with this. Let's see. Oh, did it do that again? Am I back? Yes, okay. accidentally hit the button on the phone while I was trying to stir. It's difficult to do too many things at once. So what we are doing right now is we're just moving the powdered sugar around in the bottom of the pan a little bit until it starts to melt. It's going to require 2 hands for a minute. I'll bring you right back and show you as we do that. And you've already got a very sweet dessert. The purpose of the caramel at this point is to add a little bit of a textural difference. The caramel is going to firm up almost like a hard candy. And so there'll be a crunch to this dessert, which is otherwise, while delicious, kind of a little bit too consistent in its texture. It's the very soft eggs, the very soft velvety sauce, and the caramel that you're going to put on top is going to give it a little bit of a crunch. I'm almost there. I know, I'm sorry that this gets kind of boring to watch when we're not doing anything exciting, but this is just about, let's see. You see how the powdered sugar, let's see, is melting in the pan? It actually looks like liquid. That's when you're getting there. And so now is when you want to keep moving things around. You don't want to burn anything. All we're doing is melting that powdered sugar. And we get enough of it. You can add more if you need more. Or this will probably be enough for the 1 plate of dessert that I've made. This whole recipe is enough to serve 4 to 6 people. And again, I'm going to pick this up again so you could see.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. You see how you've got a liquid that's coming out of that powdered sugar? Is that visible?
Yeah, do you want me to hold it?
Yeah, would you?
Sure.
Thank you. Is it visible here that we've got the powdered sugar is it's melting into a caramel colored liquid. If you needed to make more, just add more powdered sugar right now, which will dissolve right away into that liquid. And we're done. So we're going to pour this. And that's it. And now, as that cools off, it's going to get a nice crunch on it. Give it a second. As it is, it's nice and soft. And that's all we've got. This is Snow Island, Floating Island rather, or snow pudding. And we will, of course, do the taste test now. Oh, here. The caramel cracks now. And you, cameraman, can have the first taste.
Okay. Are you filming me?
Yep, watch out. Don't drop. No. Good.
I don't like being.
Okay.
Of course, so pretty much everything I do for school is being filmed.
I know, right? You're all zooming. How is it?
It tastes good. It tastes a lot like marshmallows.
We have marshmallows. That's outstanding. It tastes like melted vanilla ice cream. The eggs are pillowy and soft, and there's a little bit of a crunch from that caramel sauce that we added at the last minute. And that's what I've got for now. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to take time.
Thank you so much, John. Yeah, feel free to either unmute yourself or ask questions in the chat. Well, maybe while we wait for people to type, what was the name of that cookbook? Do you know?
Oh,
Ted, do you want me to hold it?
yes. I will be right back. So excuse me just a minute.
Okay.
No, stay there. Stay there.
Okay.
This is the book, Gourmet's Basic French Cookbook, Techniques on French Cuisine by Louis Dia. This weighs about 2.5 pounds and was 25 cents at a garage sale. Let me see. Salad. $3.87. Here, let me read for you a quick excerpt. When spring turned the hedgerows of our Bourbonnais countryside white and sweet-smelling with blossoming hawthorn, we children knew the time had come for us to gather the season's first wild field salad sprouting in lush profusion in the nearby meadows. If that isn't the most poetic description of food I have ever heard, I don't know what is. Anyway, that's what sold me on this. That is the name of the book. I don't know if you'd be able to find it right now. Probably used somewhere. It's a Friends of the Library book sale or something. It might be at Amazon as a used tome. Anything else? So we've got the creme anglaise, we've got the floating island, and then we made a caramel sauce to go on top, and I think we're about finished. Excellent. Thank you very much for coming today. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you all for coming.